Welcome to Feminine Sexual Healing, the leading edge of personal growth and development. I'm your host, Amrita Grace.
I know you're scared to be yourself sometimes. This world can be so blind. But if you take the chance to trust, start to open up.
Oh, I have a really amazing special guest today. This is my Avalon sister, Dawn Kinsella. We met through a Facebook group, a priestess group, and felt an immediate kinship with each other. Now that I'm doing this podcast thing again, she was the first person that I asked to be a guest. So I'm going to introduce her before we begin our conversation. Dawn Kinsella is the director and founder of the Sacred Celebrants Academy in Avalon, a priestess of Avalon, and an authorized person and officiate for the first legal pagan marriages in England and Wales. That is amazing. She conducted the first ever legal pagan marriages in history in England and Wales. This is a pioneer we have with us here. In addition, she's a Gnostic student and goddess ceremonialist, temple musician, hypnotherapist, and integral eye movement therapy practitioner. A civil celebrant, Dawn holds an NVQ diploma in wedding ceremonies. She's a sacred celebrant and has conducted many hand fastings, renewals of vows, and baby naming ceremonies over the years. Dawn is a full-time priestess from the Glastonbury Goddess Temple. She oversaw the day-to-day running of the Glastonbury Goddess Temple for 6 years, from 2013 to 2019. She's had articles about her role as priestess and officiate for legal marriages in publications such as Pagan Dawn and Wild Hunt magazines, plus several radio interviews and publications across Europe. And I just feel so lucky to have Dawn with us today. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. Wow, what an accolade. Is that me? Thank you, Amrita. It's just so wonderful to be here. I feel such a very powerful connection with you. I think I said just now, from America to Avalon. It just feels so incredibly amazing. So thank you for inviting me. Very
Oh,
grateful
it's so my
grateful.
pleasure. I just love these kind of synchronistic connections, and the fact that I'll be teaching a week-long retreat in Glastonbury this summer, and to have this beautiful connection, and now inviting you to lead some of our ceremonies feels so good to me. So tell me, I would love to know, when were you called to Avalon and to become a priestess of Avalon? Tell me a little
Oh,
more about that journey.
wow. It just seems eons ago now. I should think you probably feel the same about the start of your deeply feminine spiritual journey. I remember I've always been a spiritual girl, or always, but there wasn't enough literature around at the time. Born in 1961, and by the time I was 15 years old, there wasn't really very much to satisfy my curiosity and my yearnings. I mean, thank goodness for the internet now, and libraries are much more generous in the occult, for want of a better word, section. But I've always been a spiritual girl. And I remember when my third daughter, Holly, was very little. She was about 2 years old, and we came to Glastonbury for the day. She's 30 now, so what, 28 years ago. And we came to Glastonbury for the day, and it was a very hot day. And we went to the which I know that you know, Amrita, the Abbey, not the Abbey tea rooms. There's another little walkway that you can go down off the high street, and there's some tea rooms in there.
Mhm.
What's it called? It's a venue space. Anyway, we went in there, and it was completely empty. But there was some kind of event that had been going on in there. There were market stall tables. But what grabbed my attention was, all around the walls, there were these amazing paintings of women bleeding in all sorts of different poses. For instance, a woman kneeling on the land and her menstrual blood was pouring into the earth, and she was looking up at the moon. And there were other ones where a woman was swimming with dolphins, and the menstrual blood was pouring out of her into the waters. I mean, all of these different paintings of women and their beautiful elixir pouring out. Now, I'd never seen anything like this in my life, and my jaw hit the floor. What is this? And Holly was only 2, and she was holding my hand, and I could hear her sucking on her dummy, just looking with me. But in the distance, I could hear this chanting, women chanting, and I thought it was something coming from another dimension because I was looking at these paintings. But then I noticed that the music, the chanting was getting closer and closer. And I said to Holly, can you hear that? And she said, let's go and see, because I could hear it was getting louder. So we sat on the steps, the assembly rooms, that's right, the Glastonbury assembly rooms.
Yes.
So we sat on the steps, and I knew now that this amazing chanting that was coming closer we were about to see what it was. And then we did. And it was, they turned into the corridor opposite where Holly and I were sitting, and she was sitting in between my legs. Yeah, she was sitting there. And these 2 men were carrying a giant effigy of the goddess, and all the chanting was the women. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return. And of course, they were greeted with the sight of a mum sitting with a little child in front of them, and they went wild. And we were kind of scooped up into this assembly area where all these amazing paintings were, and we just witnessed this, that the men were whizzing the goddess round. They'd just been at the tour and back down again and into the assembly room. And that was my first experience, and it blew my mind. I had no idea what was going on, but it pulled on me like nothing ever had before. And I kind of just let that experience be. And I went back to London. I was living in London at the time. And then a few years later actually, I decided to, Holly was then going to university, and I decided to take my training, the Goddess Temple training, the Priestess of Avalon training. And I gave away and sold everything I owned and just went there. I just went. Because I wanted to see what it was like if I did that. What would happen to me if I went there shriven with nothing, just like you read in the books, like the Indian braves going out into the desert with nothing, or, the priestesses leaving the Isle with nothing and gathering experiences. So I did. And it all took off from there, really, Amrita. It didn't stop. I took my training, and it blew my mind so much that I went off to Cyprus for a year to live, just so I could process, really. So powerful, you understand.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
so powerful, and I know that you understand.
I do.
That one cannot ever go back to a life ordinary ever again. It's you dive headlong into a vocation, truly. If you want it, if you want to. Everybody has choices here.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah. So I did that, and then came back and picked up my 2nd year training, and then that's when things really went crazy.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pause you right there. There's a lot to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel and see, I can just visualize. I mean, of course, I know the places you're talking about. And this, when you're there with Holly being scooped up into this procession, I see that as an initiation for both of you. and for everyone there, really. Wow. So this was the Lady of Avalon saying, "You are mine, and I am
Yes.
yours, and we are together forever." And I know that feeling very well, because of course, those of us who are called to Avalon, we know that we've been there before and before and before, lifetime after lifetime. And wow, thank you for sharing that incredible story. So, so you've had some, it sounds like you've had some time away from Avalon, but you keep getting called back. Say more about that.
Yes. It just didn't stop here. I founded the Pop-Up Temples movement, which is now on a global scale. The weddings happened and the academy was just beginning. And I was in Goddess House Healing Temple, which I take it you've been there. Yeah,
I have been there.
beautiful, beautiful healing temple.
Yes.
And I think I was covering for someone one day on reception, and I noticed that there was somebody coming in for a session with the same name as me, but without the A on the end. So it's the masculine form. And I thought, oh, how unusual. And he walked through the door and I recognized him immediately. And we both had this incredible experience. It was deeply emotional, and it was past life stuff. Cathars, southern France, the Languedoc region. Yeah, that was
Oh, I
great.
just got chills as you shared that with me. Just, I know that sensation of, I know you. And oh my goodness, that's just incredible. You were placed in this place to meet this person again. And wow. When did you start the academy? Tell me how that came into being.
Well, that was quite something. Again, along with the other experiences that I had, Amrita, it just came in. I didn't have any plans. So as you so beautifully introduced me, I pioneered the weddings, the Goddess Temple weddings, which was amazing. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to begin some kind of training program that's very professional but slick and sacred, where because having to register this in the first place, I had to do everything really professionally, along with Kathy Jones and Mike Jones as well. I mean, they were amazing, supported all the wild things I wanted to do right from the very start. I couldn't have done this without them, and Mendip registry office also. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to get this? This is a real bridge now of professionalism and sacred ritual, put them together and hold a training program for people that would really love to do it. Yeah, why not? So I did. I wrote up a program, and it was hugely successful immediately, because these kind of ceremonies of sacred union are more in demand now.
Yes.
And it really needed celebrants to come forward that had the correct credentials. And of course,
Yeah.
they all learn how to non-script. So they don't use any kind of scripts at all. It's all from here, the way that we have to do it in the temple, or had to. I did step down from Goddess Temple weddings, well, lockdown, yeah, which affected all of us in so many ways. But the
Yes.
academy kept going. And now we do funerals, spiritual funeral and memorial training, again, taking that sort of very strong core of civil training, but marrying it up with deep ceremonial grief work. And it's the grief work that that completes me in so many ways. I cannot tell you. It's to be able to. We have a very strange concept about grief and the very strong transitions and life events in our lives. So we go through, what is the death process? Does it seem reasonable to assume that we come from somewhere, but that we are in the form of consciousness. And that we make an agreement to come here. This place is a university, it's a school, it's a place of learning. It's where we come to gather our experiences and work out our karma, isn't it? It makes perfect
Absolutely.
sense. Yeah.
Yes. And you're referring to Glastonbury in general and to Avalon
And
as a place of learning and scholarship and study and immersion into the priestess arts, the priest arts. And what you're saying about grieving and death, this is so under-addressed in our culture and so important because we're
yes,
all going to die. And what are we going, like, I just see it as we're going home. And
love that.
I celebrate when people pass. I mean, of course, there's always grieving, but there's also celebration. They get to go home and return to the larger consciousness. And I really appreciate that you're bringing this piece in because it's just, it's so needed. So needed.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Because the only way that we can exist here in this very dense gravity and earthly realm, and it's not just Glastonbury, this
Yeah.
within this sacred being, she's not called Mother Earth for nothing. She is a gigantic, beautiful being with a bone structure, with a blood flow, with a nervous system, with sounds, with memory, everything. And
Yes.
we mimic her in our own bodies, don't we?
Oh, you bet. Yes. And
But
with
we,
our consciousness.
yes, and that is a very feminine outlook, the matriarchal way of looking at nature, cosmology, reincarnation, all the things that we look at that it is extremely sacred. So to come here, we have to exist in some kind of vehicle, and that's our bodies.
Indeed.
We can't come and eat food, drive cars, get on planes, go to different countries as a bit of consciousness, can we?
We cannot, and we
You
wouldn't
need
even
a
want
body.
to.
Yes, yes. You need a
You wouldn't
body
even want to.
to move around and experience this because this is what we take with us when we go home. What have you learned? Whoever it is who's asking us the question. Well, I've learned
Yes.
about love, sorrow, jealousy, envy, death, joy, bliss. I've learned about, okay, great, that this is what we're here to do. So, why is it that in the Western Hemisphere, we look at this process as being very, very bad and a sense of finality to it? This is what we do. What about if we looked at it in another way, where it is our responsibility while we're still here to midwife this soul leaving? And I know that you know what I'm talking about, and
I
I know
do.
that you've done it. So you are. I celebrate the life that you had here. I'm holding the space with you as you transition from your
Mm.
earthly body in your sacred form of consciousness. I send you with light and with love and bliss and a
Mm.
easy transition. Now, if we treat people like that in the dying rooms or when they've just exited, yeah, imagine the effect that that would have. But what do? It's we chain ourselves down with extreme anxiety, with deep sadness. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad about someone leaving. Of course, there isn't. But if it's done in a healthy way, because that's emotion. I am emotional for you. So with the grief work, that is probably the most powerful thing that we've ever done.
Mm.
And it is about taking care as they go through their birth process, because that's what it is. We
Indeed.
keep rebirthing. It's a very similar state of being as when a baby is birthed.
Very
They
much
don't know
so.
where they are, like, oh, where's this? And who am I? And yeah, they have no language. They have only pure awareness in the moment.
Yes.
How about if we see exiting the physical body in the same way?
Yes. Beautiful. I love
Beautiful.
it. I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's what the academy is bringing in, and now we have civil funeral celebrants and civil wedding celebrants now taking the training
Beautiful.
because
Oh, so
there
they can
must be.
expand the dimension of what they're
Yes,
offering. Love it.
yes, yes, and it really expanding, so because everybody has different tastes. Some people do not want anything to do with that, and they would prefer a very very straight and civil ceremony. Great. Now you've got a choice. Now
Yes.
you've got celebrants and ceremonialists that have all of these skills for everyone.
Well,
And
and no matter how standard the ceremony is, any celebrant who's had this training with you is going to be bringing in an element of sacredness that is going to be felt in the energy field of everyone there and of the soul that is passing.
oh, Amrita, you have hit the nail on the head. The energy that pours from them is phenomenal. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Because we're vessels, aren't we?
Indeed, we are.
People
Indeed,
feel
we
for
are.
us, our intention and the way that we hold space, the way that we hold ceremonial work. Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. I want to shift gears just a little bit here and talk about the work that I do in Avalon and the work that I've been doing for a little over 17 years now, and the retreat that I'm going to be bringing. And I bring this into our conversation because you had such a beautiful response when I shared what I do. And because I'm bringing what is called sacred sexual awakening and healing, it felt so important to bring it to Glastonbury, to Avalon, and really ground this work of sexual healing because we all need it. We all have sexual wounding. We cannot be in these bodies without it, from between what we're bringing from past lives, what we're bringing from our lineage, our foremothers, what's been passed down through our cells and our genetics, to just the society that we live in and how religions have been shaming our sexuality for eons. And I recognized that you saw how important that is, whereas a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. And that's part of what drew me to you. I really appreciated how you responded to the sacred sexual healing work that I'm bringing to Avalon. So I'd just love to hear a little bit more about your perspective on that.
Completely. And yes, that is what drew me to you. That there is you are part of a pioneering group of women from many corners of the earth now that are really bringing this to the fore. So you for over 5,000 years now, the feminine has almost been erased. And you are bringing back the importance of the power of the feminine and of the matriarchal paradigm. Uh, and what better place to do it than to be in Avalon, which is, as you know, the heart chakra of the earth. So everything is about the heart. To loosen the chains of sexual repression, it, I find that women are very reluctant to talk about it because many women have a reluctance to go deeper into that subject. Remember when I was saying to you about the women bleeding into the earth? There are many women that would think oh, that's horrid. Uh, why is it horrid? Where did that come from? And women and you are bringing this knowledge back. This is ancient. This is very ancient, and
Yes, it
you're
is.
remembered um, as a temple priestess yourself about the sacredness of menstruation as an elixir, as that which feeds, and the energy that comes from us as women. We are nourishers. We are mothers, regardless of whether we've had children or not. We have a very powerful energy, and especially from our yoni, especially from the womb, which is to me is the Holy Grail, is the
Mm.
chalice. So I was very excited to see you because you are pioneering to bring this back. You know, it doesn't need to be heavy at first. Light touch. Come to
Mm.
our
Mhm.
come and experience it, because as you know, people experience it in their own unique way. This is
Yes.
great. Now we're going to go deeper into women's sexuality, what happened to us, and how we can bring this back into alignment once more, because we're leaking all over the place. And it comes through in so many ways. We feel that, well, many women feel that they have to be maybe the perfect 10, or to have to look a certain way to attract the opposite sex, or to feel some sense of supreme self-confidence. When to what you're doing, Amrita, is encouraging them to let go and go deeper into their priestess selves. We're all priestesses here, and anyone that's attracted to your programs and the way that you work definitely had temple lives and were able to understand the sacredness of the feminine in an extremely deep and sacred way from a long time ago. So you've picked this thread, the red thread, and you're pulling on it. You're pulling. And there are those that are following you. They see you as a beacon and totally understand what you're doing. So that's what drew me to you. I come into contact with a lot of amazing women that do incredible work, but there's something about you, and I have a very strong connection with you, that just drew me to you immediately. And I thought, you know, I recognize you. It is a sense of recognition, and I know what it is you're doing, and it's epic. And I would, anything that I can do to help and to serve in this, I'm yours. So come to Avalon, and
Mm.
yeah, and expand this. We're in a very magical time right now. The wheel of procession, which takes about 26,000 years to do a complete round, yeah, we
Yep.
are going into an expanding copper age now, heading towards the silver age and then towards the golden age, which
Mm.
is when we hit the high peak of deep spirituality, of a matriarchal paradigm, leaving behind the patriarchal paradigm and moving into it and reaching this high point of sacredness. Now, we're the pioneers. We're kind of, we've agreed to come here and kind of clear the way, so that
Yes.
those that come after us, they're clearing also, and this will go down through the generations. This is amazing work, and
Mm.
we can really feel the power of the powerful magic that is happening, especially in places like Avalon, Mount Shasta, Mount Kailash, all the places on the earth that are considered the sacred chakra points of her body. Very powerful place. So
Mm.
yes, I was very drawn to your work. Yeah, in a powerful
So
way.
beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel so seen as a priestess, and so seen as a woman, a spiritual woman, and just very yeah, you are an incredibly wise woman, Dawn, and you are bringing forth the wisdom of generations and of lifetimes. And I know that I am too. And I think that's part of the connection that we share. So the Sacred Feminine Rose Womb Mysteries of Avalon, this will be the 4th year of me bringing this retreat to Avalon. It's also a pilgrimage, so we're combining the sacred sexual healing work with pilgrimages to private time in the Chalice Ball Gardens, which is incredibly precious. And we're working to get our private time in the White Springs, which we've had for the last 3 years as well, working to get that arranged. And I've invited Dawn to come and conduct the ceremonies for us, lead us through the Chalice Ball Gardens, and to lead us in through the incredibly potent and wild energies of the White Spring as well. So the dates for this year's retreat are June 28th through July 5th. And I will, of course, leave links below for all of Dawn's contact information and her website, and for the retreat as well, and how you can get a hold of me. So Dawn, I just want to say, is there anything more that you would like to say in closing before we wrap? Anything that you would like to bring through you to share?
Yeah, it just feels so wonderful to connect across the waters with you, Amrita, and all of your listeners to your podcast, hear from the sacred Isle of Avalon. And I'm just looking on screen, it looks like I'm looking to my right, but I'm looking to my left. And in the garden next door, there is one of the holy thorns, which the original was planted on Wiriel Hill by Joseph of Arimathea. And it's just beginning to blossom now. The leaves are very healthy and sprouting. And I feel such a connection with this amazing plant that is indigenous to Israel only. So we know it's not a native of this land. And also behind me on the wall is the sacred wheel from King Arthur's court, which has all of the star signs on there and what the benefits are of following the teachings of the zodiac. And for some reason, I'm just feeling this amazing web being created now with you, Amrita, the Holy Thorn, and King Arthur, and the knights of the Round Table, and the priestesses from the ancient legends. It's all kind of coming together into a complete and mystical whole. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because
That is just perfect. Just perfect.
indeed.
Dawn, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and for just responding to me in such a beautiful, kind, and sacred way. That is something that, as a priestess, I very much respond to, and that just drew me right into you, and I just couldn't wait to be in this space with you. And I also very much look forward to collaborating with you in person in Avalon in a few months. So I just want to say, blessed be, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and for the incredible wise woman that you are. And until we meet in Avalon, take good care.
You, my sister.